Please open your notebooks to the next clean page. Turn your notebook sideways so that you have the most space to use. In the center of your page, please draw a book. Underneath the book, write text. When we're looking for meaning when we read, we can look to the text. This can be the focus of where we are looking for meaning, or we can be using the text as a tool to learn more about information in several places. We can use the text to learn more about the way the world works. We can also use the text to learn more about the way society works. In your notebook, please draw the picture of the book with the word text, the two branches, the picture of the world with the label world, and a picture of people with the label society. These three pictures will identify sources of meaning when you read. Again, you can read a book to learn more from the book, or you can read the book to learn more about the world or society. Feel free to pause the video to allow students to draw these three items and catch up before we move on. Okay, once you've drawn the text, the world, and society, let's dig a little bit deeper. When we're reading the text, we can look just to the text specifically for meaning, as in we're looking at the text and nothing else connected to it. If we're not reading the text to learn more about the world or society, then we could be reading the text to learn more about the author. This could mean we're looking to the author's life, how his or her experiences shape the text itself, or we're looking to the author's world, the environment in which they were writing, to see how that particular world and that particular time or place impacted the writer's life, which is evident in the text. Please draw a pencil and the label writer's life, as well as a miniature world and the label writer's world to denote these two places of meaning. Connect them with a branch, because we can use the text to learn more about the writer's life, and we can use the text to learn more about the writer's world. Below the book, we can also look for places of meaning or ways of making meaning based on our own reactions to a text. So draw an eye and write the label reader. This eye represents you, so we can focus on how you react from the text. We can focus on the text itself. We can focus on how the author shapes the text, or we can use a text as a tool to learn more about the world and more about society. Please feel free to pause the video to allow students to draw these icons with labels in their notebook. Once you have finished, switch colors. You can grab another marker, you can grab a different pen color or a pencil, whatever you can use or you can find to use that will be a different color from the information that you've already presented on the page. On my page, this information is blue. Now I'll be switching to red. Again, all of these icons represent different places we can look for meaning, different places we can emphasize when we're thinking about analyzing a text. We've been talking a lot about critical theory. Critical theory is a way of looking for meaning based on what your purpose is in analysis. Again, think of lenses as an appropriate metaphor for theories. It's like we're putting on a set of glasses and looking through them to help us focus on a particular place. To help you understand how theories connect to each other or how theories contrast, I used a red marker and labeled where the appropriate location of theories would be in this map. Some of these theories you'll recognize. We've talked about a few of them, like historical, biographical, and post-colonial. Some of them we have yet to talk about. but we'll talk about like critical race theory, which we'll focus on today in class, or gender studies next, or the next class after that. And then some are ones that we won't talk about, but that I'll mention so that you're familiar with them in the future. That would be like psychoanalytical or deconstruction. I'm giving you these names now, these names of theories, so that you can see how they fit with what we've learned so far and look to what to expect in the classes to come. With the second color of pen, pencil, or marker that you've selected, please record these as I go over them. All right. So if we're looking at the text and we want to just see how the text functions, we don't want to look at any background, we don't want to use it as a tool or a lens to look at what society or the world, we only want to look at the text and nothing else matters. The text stands alone. If you want to look at the text standing alone, you can use deconstruction or new criticism as a theory of focus. Deconstruction focuses on how binaries exist and how to overturn them. We'll talk about the term binary when we discuss Blue Winds Dancing from your last night's reading. New criticism focuses on how the text is unified. Do all the pieces work together? Both of these don't take into consideration the world, the reader, society, or any part of the author. They simply look at the text by itself. Theorists from these two schools of thought would say that the text itself is an artifact worthy of study and that we don't need any additional or outside information in order to understand the text well. If we're using the text to talk about the author, we can focus on the author's life or the author's world. If we're focusing on the author's world, then we would be using a historical criticism. Historical criticism, again, focuses on how history both shapes and is influenced by a text. So what type of experiences historically shaped the text from the author's point of view? And again, remember that historical criticism also emphasizes that there are multiple histories that are equally valid and useful. If we're not talking about the author's world and we want to focus specifically on the author themselves, how does his or her life impact the text? Then we can use biographical criticism, which emphasizes the author's life experiences and uses the text as a way to study those experiences. It also posits that a author's experiences inherently shape the text, so learning more about those said experiences can help us understand the text a little better. Or we could use a psychoanalytical criticism. This is one that we're not going to talk about in detail, but it focuses on how the mind of the author or characters are shaped. How does that influence the text? We'll come back to this one as it's a little bit more detailed and a lot more complex than some of the other ones that we're going to be talking about throughout this unit. Okay, so if we're not going to focus on the author, perhaps we want to know about the world. And when we say world, I don't just mean the physical, I mean just the physical world, excuse me. I don't mean the society that's over here. I don't mean the people. I mean nature, the physical landscape of the world. How does the text teach us about the world? Eco-criticism is a critical theory that focuses on man's relationship to nature. Eco is a prefix you might recognize as being one that denotes nature. So how are humans or characters related to nature? What type of interaction does the character or author have with nature? It's a very social activist type of lens because it emphasizes how we should have a heightened awareness of nature and the world around us. And we'll talk about this briefly at the end of our unit. If we're not going to focus on the author, and we're not really interested in the physical world, perhaps we're interested in ourselves. How do we as readers react to a text? Some would argue that how we react to a text is just as important as how the author intended it, if not more so. A reader response theory focuses not on what the author intended, but what you got out of it. How did you respond to this particular text? How is the audience a formidable influence on this text? Had this text been printed in a magazine, like Cosmopolitan or Teen Vogue, how would that type of audience reacted to this text differently than if it was published in, like, let's say, the New York Times? So reader response is all about you and about the audience and how the audience is influenced by a text. The biggest chunk of our time is going to be focused on using society as a way of making meaning or recognizing meaning. So the book itself is simply an artifact for what's going on in society. If the book is an artifact for what's going on in society, then we can look at many issues in society through the book. Post-colonial criticism is one that we've already talked about. It's how oppressed people who have been colonized experience struggle, especially when it comes to regaining autonomy after colonization has ended. Critical race theory is about how race as a social construct is related to the identity making of characters and how the race dynamics take place in the text, how we can learn from that, learn how society functions considering race. Gender studies is all about how gender is represented. This could be singularly focused on feminism, how women are represented, but I wanted to broaden it up for you. It could also emphasize how gender expectations for males as well as females are enforced and how we are conditioned to recognize gender. Queer theory also is one that highlights a specific group or subgroup of society. That would be any type of text in which we can learn about LGBTQA issues. And lastly, cultural studies is a little bit more of an anthropological approach. It's how we can use the text to learn about a culture, specifically a culture that we are observers to and not participants in. Just to recap, all of these blue icons represent different places that you can find meaning. You can look for meaning in the text, you can look for meaning in the author's life, you can use the text to look for meaning in the world, you can use the text to look for meaning in society, or you can look through for meaning in your own reaction to the text as a reader. Take whatever color you had first and make a little key to the side and denote that that color, whichever one you used, stands for where to look for meaning. When you have finished, switch colors back to what you used to label the theories as. Again, these theories are different ways to look for meaning when we read a text. Denote that with your key. The important thing that I wanted to display here is that all of these theories have specific purposes. When you go to do an analysis in this class, you need to pick a theory or pick an emphasis for your analysis that matches what your purpose is as an analyst. If you're looking at the author, then you want to pull from this section. You don't want to pull from these types of theories. So you have to be really specific and deliberate in what type of theory you use based on where you're hoping to find meaning. If we're looking for information about the world, we certainly wouldn't use queer theory. When you have finished, you can label this theory map and update your table of contents. We'll come back and we'll use this tool a lot as we continue through this unit. I recognize that listening to this description may not be the most informational for you, and it may not necessarily help you understand this as well, but just focus today on getting this recorded in your notebooks, updated in your table of contents, and have it complete so that we can continue to use it as a tool in the future. When I return, we will certainly work on this together and understanding it to a little bit of a deeper context than what we do now. Fantastic. When you are finished, you can turn to your next clean page in your notebook for the substitute to give you information about your next assignment, which is dialectical journaling. See you soon.